It's time for Dart Talk. Brought to you by thedartzone.com. Stay in the zone. Thedartzone.com is an official Cosmo distributor and Windy City Fabricators, America's premier fabricators of orthotics and prosthetics. And Redwood Darts, America's newest tungsten darts. Stand straight and tall and hit them all. Redwood Darts. And now, here are your hosts, Mystery Mark and Steve P.
Okay, welcome to Dart Talk.
Hi, how's it going?
I don't know, you tell me.
It's going all right. We got an exciting show going on. We got an exciting baseball game going on.
Dart Talk brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
The DartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks. Windy City Fabricators, Redwood Darts, the cast and crew. You got the baseball game going on the tablet. Yeah. I don't know if you might be a little distracted for this
it's
show.
Very possible.
That's what I'm thinking. Game 7.
Game 7. It's been a good series.
Game 7s are fun.
Yeah.
Game 7s are like the deciding leg.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, you're supposed to play it like any other game, right?
It's hard to do.
It's
everything matters.
One
every dart
foot in
matters.
Front of the
every
other.
Pitch matters. Regardless,
And I don't care what the sport is. It just seems like the team that can put that stuff aside and focus and play is the team that ultimately succeeds. So. Good luck to the guys. I couldn't figure out who to root for, so I was rooting for a Game 7, and then I was like, geez, there's a Game 7. I might not get to watch it.
Right. Yeah.
So go ahead, disclaim everything. Let's get that over with. Okay.
The views, opinions, rants, and rampages expressed on Dart Talk do not necessarily reflect individually or collectively those of our sponsors, co-sponsors, wannabe hosts, hearing-impaired critics, or those with a penchant for attitudinal dysfunction. We at Dart Talk strive to provide you, the listener, with an educational, entertaining, and fun-filled experience each and every week. If after the show you, the listener, find yourself feeling uneducated, unentertained, and or bored, we at Dart Talk consider that your own problem.
Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, what's on the show tonight? Any idea? What are we talking about?
Oh, probably a little league darts, I would assume. You said you were going to spring something on me, so there's something that I don't know about.
Yeah, there is. There's breaking news from the powers that be of Dartslive,
which
bears some discussion.
We got some amazing results from the triple elimination. I know that for a fact, right?
Should we go right to that?
We should go right to that.
The Pearl Tournament of Champions.
The results from the website.
Let's get the results from the Pearl Tournament of Champions, which I was kind of mocking. Because I'm not a big fan of triple elimination blind draw. So, but I was like, you know what? Let's, give the winners and, the people that played in it their due.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on the Pearl Tournament of Champions website, clicked on the link that said, 2014 tournament results.
Click here for results.
And here they are.
Yeah.
There's the results from the...
Oh,
well, okay.
No, they didn't post a link to our show, but...
Yeah, those are not actually the results. Here's the results that you can get on the Pearl Vodka. I mean, they literally had no results.
Nothing.
And I'm like...
And then you pulled up the brackets.
Well, yeah, I pulled up the brackets and they were all blank. So here's the deal that I think people don't understand. The people that run things don't understand. So I'll try to be as succinct as I can because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but you've got people that play things like darts mostly because they love it, right? There's no money in it.
Yeah, right.
Now, this particular tournament was sort of an exception to the no money rule insofar as there was a lot of prize money, but it was divvied up to the point where it was like, it wasn't like the winner was going to get $200,000, something like that, which would have been, wow. You'd get great players coming out of the woodwork trying to get their games together for something like that. But that's not the way they did it. So fine. But here's the thing that I don't think they realize. It's like, aside from the money, people play, to get a little glory and to get a little attention.
Mm-hmm.
Like, before the show, I was mocking Tony Romo.
Yes.
Right? And I'm
Yes.
like, he's a glory hound. He should not have tried to go in the game. He was useless once he went in. And kind of the fact that he couldn't make a simple pass changed the momentum, and Washington eventually won, where the guy they had in there was doing fine. He was doing fine, so they should have just left him in there. It's like, okay, fine. But the glory thing, I remember when I first started playing, and a lot of the leagues are kind of behind social media and stuff like that. So they were doing these things, these Pro-Am things. They do a shoot with like 30 guys, and then the winner would qualify for the Pro-Am. So, okay, 30 guys, 32 guys, bracket of 32. You got to win like 5 matches.
Mm-hmm.
Final, semi, top 8, top 16, top 32. So 32 players, you got to win 5 matches. That's, some potential landmines there, right? So if you win, it's not like you're going to get any money. You qualified for something 4 months away, but yeah, go ahead. Give the guy his due on your Facebook page. And, Windy City finally got a Facebook page years ago. And it seemed like whenever I won something, they would stop updating it. So I'd never see my name on it. It used to bug the heck out of me because I'm like, what are you doing here?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to have a Facebook page, then you update it. Or if you're going to have a website, you update it. There's nothing worse than having a website that's not updated.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, I didn't fix our website.
Well,
that's not really the point. We do have a website, and some people are on there right now watching the show. But the idea is that, that was the beauty of like some of these organizations like MMDL, and one of the things that ADO is doing is like they're posting results right away. If you go to a tournament and, you go through whatever you have to go through to play, you're going to practice, you're going to sacrifice your weekend and time away from the wife and kids, what have you, the expense of traveling, all the effort you went, and then, the thrill you got of winning, and then it's not posted.
it's not there.
And for a while.
Well, not only just the winning, the second place. What if you
whatever.
You played well, you got 4th, and there's nothing there.
and their website's blank because we'll work to.
And your
it's
name's
not really.
not
you know what? You guys got paid. It's not too important to update the website. It's
your
absurd.
name's not even on the bracket.
It's absurd. I mean, it's like, hey, let's show the results again. Oh, okay. You want to read the names?
I wish I could see.
Let's congratulate the winner of the Pearl Vodka Tournament of Champions. I mean, please,
congratulations.
Just give me a small break. and that's the thing. We're going to talk about Dartslive, a little bit later. But at least they update their stuff.
Well, then also not only they want to like talk about it and they want to promote it and this and that and like all this is going on, and then okay, so you actually pay attention maybe, and then you go to find out who won and there's nothing.
It's like, how do you take the people are shocked to this day. I started, just some little personal time. I found the biggest time suck in the history of time sucks. There's this game on your phone, Game of War. It is like freaking so fascinating and so much fun, right? And I suspect, our YouTube. Did you see our ratings for YouTube? Is like way more than usual. Most people get it off of iTunes and stuff. Mm-hmm. And all these people on YouTube, because I told the people I'm playing Game of War with that I do this podcast, and I think they went and checked it out.
Right.
So
good for them.
Yeah. Well, okay, it's fine. But they're shocked that somebody's doing a show about darts. It's like, hey, people take this thing seriously. Just because it's not on TV doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right.
But every time I see something like this, where you've got somebody who's like trying to promote darts, and this is what you get, sets everybody else's efforts back. Mm-hmm. So it's somewhat infuriating. And you saw how I'm laughing. I'm going through this website like, what is this?
What about all the people that took the effort to put on that tournament, and there's not even acknowledgement of all the volunteers, anybody that was involved in that tournament, let alone the winners and the results. There's no acknowledgement of anybody that helped put that tournament on their website at all, and that's just wrong.
I'm just sort of like, why would anybody want to be involved in an endeavor like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even if you only finished top 24, you want to see your name.
Right.
So you could tell your friends, hey, check it out. I made top 24 and point to it. And it's the electronic social media equivalent of getting a trophy.
What'd you do this weekend? Here, let me show you.
Yeah. It's your online trophy is what people post, right? And Facebook. I mean, not everyone's on Facebook.
Right.
Right. We got dart discussion groups with people that are, discussing this, that, and the other thing. There's like 2,000-3,000 people. There's way more than 2,000-3,000 darters.
Yeah.
Right? Way more. So, I mean, you're not getting all the darters if all you do is post stuff on Facebook. That's just kind of a small, maybe they're a little more technical than other people, or maybe they're a little more social, I mean, we don't use Twitter much, but, Twitter's big in Europe. I mean, whatever. So at least you look at the organizations that do well, and their stuff is presented well online. Like if you look at the Canadian National Darts Federation, their stuff is up there in a timely manner. It's readable. They got a nice-looking website. Looks professional. Same with the PDC. I mean, you got the results.
Bill asked if we could display the PCS results.
Oh, the PCS. Well, nobody's played. Nobody's played PCS results
There are
in a
no
while.
results.
But, so here's the results from this week's PCS match. That's what our sponsor wants to see. There we go. It was a close match, apparently. No, so
At least nobody played.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if they played and there were no results, that'd be different. I mean, we do post results when somebody plays. I wrote up reports and stuff.
Right.
I got, I had to bug the players, say what happened, if I wasn't there. Okay, what about this? What about that? Give me a couple of quotes, string something together. We put stats out. I mean, we had something. And let me tell you, I was playing league darts last night, and two of the guys on my team are actually detectives with the city of Chicago detectives.
All right.
So I feel protected now.
Oh, good.
At least if
You
I
need
like
it.
speeding. No, but the one guy was saying, because he's been playing darts, and I consider these guys like very representative of your average kind of league player. They've been playing for 20 years. He plays with his brother. They started out kind of playing each other, and they enjoyed it, so they got on a team, and it's their night out to hang out and play some darts. They have no illusions that they're going to be the next Phil Taylor, but they enjoy their game, and they're as competitive as they can be. They want to win. They don't want to play bad. They beat themselves up if they make a mistake, but they work at it, and they're attentive, and they're great teammates. So it's the first season I've played with them, and the first week of the season, I don't really talk about the podcast to anybody in league. I mean, people know it's there, and I don't like be like, hey, watch my podcast. I'm not like that. Except for a couple of guys where I'm like, they made a mistake in cricket, and I'm like, well, you should have listened to last week's show. But aside from that, I don't really promote it in Chicago.
Yeah.
Right. On the road, I promoted it a lot. So, but he's like, well, yeah, I've seen your show. And I'm like, oh, yeah? He's like, yeah, I see you post the links on Facebook, and I've watched it a few times, and it's pretty cool. But you know what I really like? I'm like, no. He's like, I really like this Players Challenge Series thing. I like reading the reports, and
really?
I'm starting to get to learn the names of the players and stuff. And it was just sort of like, oh, we froze there a little bit.
We did?
Yeah, just a little bit. I don't know what happened. See it flash there? That can't be good. I don't know. We might be having a problem. At any rate, I was like, well, he just thought it was the best thing. And I realized what he liked is, he's of an age where he started out following sports in the newspaper. Right? Before you had cable and Major League Network and Football Network and Basketball Network and Hockey Network, you read the sports page. You read the box scores, right? For the games that you couldn't see. And then, your local games would be on TV probably.
Right. For the most part.
By the time the 70s were over, I think every local team was pretty much on TV. A couple exceptions here and there maybe. But they followed the sports through sports writers, right? That was their conduit.
Sure.
Right? And he got the same experience with the PCS that he was getting, following the Cubs and the Sox and the Blackhawks and the Bulls and all this other stuff. And I was like, it, to me, kind of validated what we were doing, because I'm convinced that if you cover darts like a sport, people will...
No, and I would agree with that.
Okay,
sure.
Now you got to get the operators to go along.
Right.
You got to get the operators to be like, hey, this is a sport. This isn't some drunk fest where the object of the game is to see, how many quarters you can collect in a calendar year, and try not to give too much of it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just sort of like, now Dartslive does this, right? So we're going to take a quick break. The breaks are going to be real short tonight. And we're going to talk Dartslive breaking news in a minute. You're listening to Dart Talk with Mystery Mark, Steve Anselmo. We'll be right back.
The views and opinions expressed on Dart Talk are those of the hosts. They in no way should be misrepresented, misinterpreted, or made to claim that the universe is against you, your family, your city, or the darting community at large.
Hey, back for the second quarter of Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor and present in the chat room as we speak.
Yes, he is.
So what's 3-2 San Francisco?
Yep. Bottom of 4.
Okay, you're fritzing out the headphones when you press down.
Yeah,
on
I don't
that
know.
thing.
I don't know what
Stop.
happened
Try not to do that.
Yes, because I'm doing it on purpose.
Okay, so we're talking about the promoters and stuff, and how well you do online. I think in this day and age, how well you present your efforts online defines you in a way that it isn't acceptable now to have some eyesore of a website if you expect people to take you seriously.
I would agree. with that.
If
Sure,
your website is designed in some haphazard way with
everybody's a critic.
well, not only is everybody a
know.
critic, but I mean, let's face it, some things look crappy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, can we agree on that? But if you're not going to post the results, but you have links to the results, you just look silly. Whereas Dartslive, I mean, their website is it's not easy to navigate. I don't know if that's because they did it in a different language or something, and we're looking at the English side. But it's visually pleasing. It's accurate, and it has, to my mind, exhaustive content. They have interviews with players. They do like little video clips that they put on Facebook, but then they're also on the website, and then they release once a week or whatever. They'll be like, hey, this match is up online now. That match is up online. I mean, nothing is more
Constant
impressive.
updates.
Nothing is more impressive to me with the way darts is represented than Dartslive and the PDC. So get this. Now, this is the thing that's like probably going to get all the angry email, but I don't really care anymore. Sam
the intern will take care of
Sam the intern at internsrus.us for all your complaints, by the way. If you want to email the show, it's darttalk@gmail.com. You can also get the show on Stitcher.com, TuneIn.com, iTunes. Check out our website, darttalk.us, in case I forget to say all that stuff later. Yeah, the idea, though, what am I talking about?
It's the PDC and the
Dartslive, right?
Dartslive.
So okay, let me run this by you.
and new news or breaking news.
Breaking news. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, let me preface the breaking news by asking you a somewhat loaded question.
All right.
We've talked about how if you want to get the best player into the World Championships, how do you go about it? What did we kind of ultimately conclude as a show? Does that ring a bell?
Vaguely. Well, it was. Didn't we agree that it was who's playing the best at the end of the season, not the overall points that you gathered in the first half of the season, and now all of a sudden you haven't played in 6 months because you accumulated enough points to, So
it's like the same problem they had with the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, who's playing the best at the end of the year?
So what they did with the Ryder Cup is 3 weeks before, something like that. The captain gets to pick 3 out of 12.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes the whoever's not qualified of the 3 spots to pick whoever.
Yeah.
Right. We also, I believe, said that the thing to do would be have a tournament of as similar a format as you can, as close to the real tournament as possible.
Right.
Right. The thinking on that is, if you're going to go play sets. You're going to play best of 5 sets, best of 7 sets, whatever. Have a tournament of the same thing. So, and as close to the thing as possible, so you get the best player playing that format that can go through. If it's going to, you want the best player to represent your country, right? It's kind of what we said.
One would think, yeah.
It's kind of common sense. I mean, I don't think it's anything,
Unheard of.
earth-shaking and algebraic.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of how you do it. That's how most sports do it. You go through the playoffs, and who's playing the best in the playoffs. So the World Series, you got 2 wild card teams again, and they rigged the wild card to make it harder for them.
Yeah,
Still,
right.
once you get in, it's who's playing the best at the time. Well, if you played great in January for a tournament you're playing in December, who knows?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, well, you have no idea.
Just saying.
Whether they played all year.
I'm leading up to something here. Okay.
I'm waiting.
Well, and I will preface this by saying that we've never said a negative thing about Scott Kirchner ever on the show, right? Scott's a Janesville guy and a fantastic player. I believe I related the story how he's the only guy I've ever seen throw consecutive ton 80s in a 4-man team.
Yes,
remember
I do
that?
remember
I told you that story. I was absolutely amazed.
Yeah.
I've seen him play. He played PDC events in Las Vegas maybe 5 years ago, I want to say, 4 years ago, something like that. And he averaged about 100 in a race to 6. So I've seen him play well, and I've seen him, play steel. And I think he's a fabulous player. That being said,
okay,
here's what the PDC did. The PDC said, well, we have this association with, what Dartslive said. Dartslive is affiliated with the PDC to the extent that the PDC is giving Dartslive a spot in the World Championships starting in December. And Dartslive announced today that they are representing Dartslive is going to be Scott Kirchner. So congrats to Scott. Then here come the emails. Why not this guy? Why not that guy? How come him? How come not him? La-di-da-di-da. This guy hasn't played this year. La ba 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 ba.
So did they have a reasoning? What was the reason to pick Scott?
Well, I couldn't get a hold of Rob Heckman, but I did look up Scott's record this year. Scott played like the first world stage and did very, very well, and hasn't played one since. I know he didn't. I don't think he played in the bull shooter because it's kind of a complicated situation with Arachnid. Arachnid doesn't want certain people playing, I guess. I don't know that he played any of the Americas Tour. The Americas Tour, remember, Soldier Gates and Larry Butler kind of tied.
They tied.
We talked about the tiebreak,
Right.
and the tiebreak went to Soldier Gates, right? And Ray Carver was right there, like 1 or 2 matches behind, 1 or 2 rounds behind. And Sean Narain was there, right? I think Sean Narain finished 4th. Sean Narain is up in the standings in the world. So I don't know if, and I apologize that I didn't get a hold of Heckman to find out if the person who wins the world tour is also qualified.
Okay.
Or if this is the only spot, right? But there are people who are like, well, who's going to represent American darts the best? So I looked up their press release, and they're mentioning that Scott won this tournament in 2013. Okay, well, that's almost 2 years before
the tournament
he's going to play.
Yeah.
And it was an invitation only, like I think there were 16 guys. And it was soft tip. So, okay. There are people emailing me saying that this is like ridiculous.
Which is what you would agree with, too.
Well, I had one guy actually say, well, wouldn't you represent us better? And I'm like, okay, you don't need to stroke my ego, but if you look at all the people that are capable of going over there and performing in a long format steel in front of the intense crowds, live crowds that they have in England, who's the first name that comes to your list? The first name that comes to mind probably isn't Scott Kirchner.
No,
the first name that comes to mind is probably Darren Young. And Darren had earned his spot this year, and it got kind of taken away from him. And I didn't hear him complain. He wrapped it up. I mean, he had wrapped it up last year. He had wrapped up qualifying. And he's been there 5 straight years.
Right.
So, okay, he's not going to go. What about the guy who won the Americas Tour?
I'm surprised he didn't say anything.
I didn't hear him say anything. I mean, who knows if he said something. I mean, if you look at Leonard Gates, whose name have you heard the most?
Leonard Gates
in the last year.
Yeah.
Leonard Gates has won soft tip and steel all over the country.
Right. Even Larry Butler, you hear
all
his
over the
name a lot.
country.
Right.
Well, and again, Larry's like been basically the busiest guy in darts. I don't know how many countries he's played in this year, but he's gotten results.
Yeah, of course.
Right? You look at Sean Narain. Sean's been doing well everywhere he's gone, right? So, people are saying, how do you take a guy? I thought he was retired. I'm just like, okay, look. So in defense of Scott Kirchner, I think that he is probably one of, if you ask who's one of the best ambassadors of the sport in America, anybody who knows him mentions Scott.
Right.
Everybody says, like, he's a great guy. He represents the sport well. Hey, darts is tough. People lose their temper when they lose and stuff. I've never seen Scott
it still
get out of
goes to the
sorts
point,
like that.
though. You're talking about past results as to current results, and
it flies in the face of everything we recommend on this show. I'll say that much. I'll be interested to see how he does. And I was actually thinking, if he's in Janesville and he wants somebody to practice with, I'll practice with him.
Yeah.
I know a place we can meet that's kind of like halfway, like a steel-tip dart bar. I'll bang the board with him for hours if he wants. So, hey, Scott, if you're listening and you need somebody to practice with, just give me a call.
give me a jingle.
Give me a jingle. I'll do it. I'll come out and throw with you.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to. The one thing you hear about Wisconsin, and Scott lives in Wisconsin, is there's no steel
Right.
anywhere.
No, nowhere.
If you think practicing in your garage for a couple hours a day is going to get you ready to play English professionals,
chance.
that's not going to work. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll reach out to him. He might not be listening to the show. I don't see too many people in the chat room. Is Scott Kirchner in there?
No, he is not.
Thank God. All right. Anyway, so that was the breaking news that I thought was kind of important. Now, what do you think of it?
No, I would tend to agree. I think, I wouldn't be able to tell you who to pick other than Scott Kirchner, but if they're basing everything on a tournament he won in the beginning of 2013, and I
don't think they're basing it on
Well,
that. I
but-
think that's what looked best in the press release.
Sure, and well,
Right.
they put that on there, and it could be, it could be a career achievement as opposed to what are you doing this year achievement, but that's not what we're talking about. Yeah, his career achievement's great, and if that's what they pick it on, but that's not what the so-called basis is.
Yeah,
It's not what have you done over your last 10 years to warrant this? It's who's playing the best, and they're obviously not picking the person that, because like you said, when's the last time he actually played in a competitive tournament?
What about the creature?
Yeah, as opposed to the four guys that we named, and then let alone him too. All these guys are playing all over the place, and every week, every other week, and performing well. One of those guys should have a shot. And like you said, the best thing to do is just have a tournament at the end of the year, and all these guys that are playing well, winner take all, and they go.
I don't understand why that's not the best way to go.
Yeah.
And if
about the pressure of that.
That's what worries me.
Larry Butler, Darren Young, Sean Narain, the creature, all these guys get together for a winner-take-all tournament 2 weeks before the tournament happens?
How about that?
That would be great.
Wouldn't that be worth watching?
That would be compelling.
So instead, to like just say, okay, this is the guy that's going, I'm just sort of, I looked at it and I was like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have no problem with Scott going. I'm sure Scott will, represent himself well. I'm not, if you watch him play,
Well, I think
you'll say, well, he's definitely competent.
that's the point. I think nobody has a problem with him going. The problem is it
Why?
the best
Well,
pick?
there's some jealousy.
Is it the best pick?
I looked at the world rankings for the soft tip world championship.
Mm-hmm.
He's like 110th.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of guys ahead of you
that's not
that can sort of like say, hey, how come you didn't pick me?
Exactly.
I'm 99th.
Mm-hmm.
How come you didn't pick me? I'm 51st. How come you didn't pick me? How come you didn't pick me? I'm second.
Yeah. Right.
I won the America's Tour.
I've done this, and this year. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Leonard Gates has played better than anyone this year. Soft tip and steel. But yet he's not going to Lakeside, and now he's not going. He's not going. Is that guy snake bit or what?
Yeah.
They don't like Texans? What's the deal?
Is that
No,
what it is?
seriously. Because what does the guy got to do? To be honest, no one has played better than him in the last 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
Steel and soft tip. Nobody. So you're going to send Scott Kirchner. Okay. I just don't, from the sort of fan chatter class.
I guess though.
Right? if we had a call-in show, darters would be calling in, and half of them would be saying, Scott Kirchner's a fantastic guy. He's one of the best players I've ever seen. He's going to do great. Go Scott, go USA. That'll be half the calls.
Right.
The other half of the calls are going to be from players who are like, what are you picking him for?
Even from fans.
What's he done this year? Look what I've done. How do you not pick me?
I guess my biggest problem would be the criteria. What was the criteria?
Well, see, that's the thing. It's a sponsor's exemption, kind of,
right.
like in golf. Mm-hmm. So, like, they gave one to Annika Sorenstam so she could play in a guy's event. They gave one to Michelle Wee, right? But those are more like commercial.
They get those all the time.
Yeah, those are commercial. Hey, we'll get more fannies in the seat if we get something like,
well, yeah,
not a novelty or a gimmick, but
you already got a
something
field
different.
Of your best players.
Yeah, you're not going to pack in extra people at the Alley Pally to see Scott Kirchner.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's not a reason to do it. But at the same time, Scott Kirchner is a heck of a player, and he can play steel. Mm-hmm. Just because he doesn't mean he can't.
Right.
I don't know how. I'm trying to remember because he actually beat me once and averaged about 100. Now, he played really well, but as I recall, once he got down to finishing, there was like a little bit of hesitation there. And if he goes on stage with this phantom dart thing, where you go real slow and then you kind of do this,
the fake one,
they'll boo him.
Mm-hmm.
He'll get booed by, 10,000 people. I don't know too many dart players that are used to that.
Yeah. They can
you know what I mean?
Overcome that and handle it.
And he's entitled to play his game and play the way he wants to play. Is Mad Bum in now?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, my gosh.
You all right?
I really wanted to watch that game. So I'm a little distracted. That's okay. We're taking one for the team here.
Right.
So
we are due for a break, though.
Are we due for a break?
If we're done with this little...
Yeah, well...
Unless you had something else to say, we got
we'll take a break.
Okay.
Are you listening to Dart Talk with Mystery Mark, Steve Palenciano? What's the score?
3-2.
3-2, San Francisco in the middle innings. Bottom of the fifth. We'll be right back.
Dart Talk agrees to adhere to the Geneva Convention in treating fairly its prisoners in their war against lackluster darting administration and behaviour.
Okay, back for the second half of Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks, Windy City Fabricators and Redwood Darts. Anything in the chat? Did Scott Kirchner log in and call me? Any names?
He has not done that yet. No.
All right. I like Scott. Scott's a good player. It's sort of a... I guess the only thing I would say about it is it's such a prize. It's such a privilege to play in that tournament that to just give it away and not have people compete for it, somehow I don't like that.
Well, I think it's not a knock on Scott Kirchner by any means. It's a knock on the people that are giving him this exemption or whatever you want to call it, the entry.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened before. I can't remember who told me this, but back in the day, people got invited. Like somebody called up the ADA, I think, and said, "Hey, we got a spot in Lakeside for one of your guys. Just send him along." So the ADA was like, "Hey, you want to go? Go." And he got into Lakeside.
Right.
I mean, that's a pretty amateurish way to run things.
Yeah.
You know, they don't do anything amateurish at the PDC. And I like the idea that they're opening that tournament up. You know, I think that, you know, last year they didn't have as many stiffs playing in the first round. 2 years ago, they had guys that couldn't make my dart team playing in the first round. Yeah, you know, some guy from here, some guy from there. Some of them were horrible. I mean, just absolutely. And, you know, maybe they didn't play their best games. You know, they're nervous. It's a big stage. They flew 18 hours and, you know, got a 2-hour nap and then had to go play. You know, whatever the circumstances were, you know, they didn't play their best. Okay, fine. But I don't think that's going to happen to Scott. I think Scott's gonna be able to go there and play his game and represent himself. And, you know, we'll see.
Sure.
You know, I mean, you know, the thing that kills me is that, you know, Darren earned his spot already. And it wasn't that they reneged on it, but, you know, it just seems like the rules change every year. And every year Darren goes, he plays better.
Mm-hmm.
He's progressively played better every
makes
year
sense.
that he's gone. Last year, I thought he played, you know, very well. And he ran into, you know, Mervyn King was on fire. And, you know, the guy couldn't miss. It's like, okay, good game. You know?
Right.
But, you know, this year I think, you know, Darren would have been primed to play even better. And instead, he's not going. Now, I don't know who Dartslive had to pick from.
That is true.
Right?
Yeah.
So
we didn't see the list.
Yeah, and it, you know, the one thing I'll say about Dartslive is, you know, they do things that I don't really agree with, and I've had discussions with Rob Heckman about it. And he, you know, he's an intelligent guy, and he's fun to talk to because, you know, he'll hear you out, and then he'll be like, yeah, you know, we decided to go another way.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. You know, I mean, you don't agree. Okay, fine.
Yeah, right.
Here are my reasons. I don't expect everyone to agree with me.
Exactly.
Right? In this particular case, though, I think I'm not going to be the only person kind of like being like, you know, what the heck?
There's, yeah. You're not the only one saying I have a problem with this.
Yeah. Well, and again, you know, some of it you can dismiss as sour grapes, but at the same time, it's like it's a private company who's, you know, making a decision who's going to represent their company. Right?
Sure.
I don't think it's a thing where, you know, he's representing the USA. I think he's just representing Dartslive, the company. And he'll do that extremely well.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's not the kind of, you know, you know, I mean, I can't say I know him very well, but, you know, as far as like, you know, professional dart players go, he's up there with the most well-behaved I've ever seen, you know, through an entire tournament. So, you know, and he's kind of like, I know he's been like trying to help grow the sport in Wisconsin. I know his son plays and everything. I mean, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I
So
wish
I mean,
him well.
if they put all those factors involved instead of just saying I'm going to pick the guy that I think has the best chance to do well, and they're throwing more factors in there saying I'm going to take the guy that has the best chance of doing well as representing Dartslive and this. You know, that's like I said, we don't know the criteria.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously, like you just said, I'm sure they've got their reasons.
I mean, look
albeit,
it
doesn't mean everybody's going to agree with it.
It may be as bad as this FBS top 4 that they just came out with.
Well, that's
right where you've got how many
in its own
teams
way.
have 1 losses?
Yeah, like
have
8.
1 loss, 8 or 9. So
Yeah.
okay, here's the 2 we're picking. Well, okay,
Right.
there's 6 people right away that are going to give you an argument.
Of course. Well, and that thing's crazy, too, though, because they're like, oh, they make this big deal that they're going to come out with it on Tuesday, and then they're talking to the people on Monday night, and they're all like, well, this whole thing's going to change in the next 6 weeks anyway, so then why make a big deal out of it when it's all going to change
Because
anyway?
it gives you ratings on
I
Tuesday
know,
night
it
is
just
why.
It annoys me.
You know, I mean, come on.
It's stupid.
Well, they're not going to do it on Monday night and take away from Monday night
Right.
football.
No.
So,
But
yeah,
they talk to those guys during Monday Night Football. But,
I
yeah,
don't know.
I mean, it's just like, well, here's a big ranking system that we guarantee is going to change dramatically in the next 6 weeks, but so pay attention to it now. Why?
Well, because, you know, come watch our show.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's one of those deals. I mean, the thing about college football that kills me is that it's the most political sport I've ever seen. right? Where for years
sure.
and for decades, really, it was a beauty contest, right? Who are you going to vote for?
Right.
Bunch of drunken sports writers at a free buffet talking to each other. I don't think they're as good as them. I'm going to vote for him.
Even the Heisman changed. It used to be they voted for the best player. Next thing you know, it's the person that marketed it.
Yeah,
marketed themselves,
and they're
the best.
marketing themselves in the spring.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and so you create all these expectations where if you play mediocre, instead of them saying, "Oh, you've played mediocre," it's like, "Well, he's just not playing up to expectations," which is like, look at how
maybe that's as good as he is,
dude. Look at what he did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of having a competition. Competition tends to cut through all the arguments. Hey, I won.
Right.
As long as you win fair and square. I mean, if you're going to be like some, cheating gamesmanship, low rent kind of player like that, you're not going to get much respect. If you're just going to throw bush league darts and try to win that way, you're not going to get anybody's respect. But I mean, as far as playing for real, it's like, man, I like Scotty. I'm sincere. I'll go practice with him.
Yeah.
I'll drive up to Janesville and play like 5-6 hours on a Sunday. As long as the Bears have a bye this week.
Sure.
Well, the Bears have a bye for the rest of the season.
Anyway.
I can't even begin to tell you how much that's just. I'm so grateful for the Blackhawks. Although they're
not scoring either.
Yeah, I don't know. They're going to be weaker. Let's hope.
Fine.
Let's hope Mirotic.
For the Bulls?
Yeah, bench mob.
Yeah.
Mirotic and McBuckets, and we'll see how the Bulls do. See how Derrick Rose does.
Well, I mean,
it's going to be a cold, long winter
whether you're
Chicago.
whether you're really into it or not, but both the Bulls and the Blackhawks are really they're going to be competitive enough where it's going to be interesting, whereas opposed to the baseball season, the football season has just been a bust. So
I don't know. The baseball season, hot stove league's okay. I kind of like looking at the trades and everything. I don't do rotisserie basebal or I don't play fantasy baseball or anything like that. But I like looking at the way people build rosters and stuff. Which is, I was going to ask you about all this leadership stuff that they've been talking about. But where are we on time?
Oh, we got plenty. We got a few minutes.
So we're playing league darts last night,
which I was just going to ask you about because we had a bye, so I didn't play. So I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you how your league went.
Well, I'm going to have to talk about cricket. There's just no way to avoid it.
Right. Let's hear it.
Well, the cricket doubles, I did not warm up at all. I blame most of that on Game of War, but I really haven't been playing much. So
isn't that how you got injured in the first place, farming?
This is different because I don't have my elbow up here all the time. So,
okay.
No, I'm good with that.
You got to be careful with that.
No, this one's okay. No, this one is...
It's been a long recovery from your farming injury.
No, this one is more like... It's cerebral. It's a little bit kind of like chess. More than, anything else.
More than milking a cow?
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
At any rate, what am I talking about?
Cricket. You didn't warm up for the doubles cricket.
No, so I played really horribly. And I have to play like all these matches in our league. I play 4 matches that are best of 3.
Right.
And the last one is singles. So I play like Chicago format doubles, then I play cricket doubles, and then lately it's been 301 doubles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, somebody's got to be able to hit a double.
And then followed by the
and then I play the cricket singles. So it's a lot of darts. So we're playing in cricket doubles in the last leg.
That's about the same thing I do.
Yeah. Well, okay. Whether you play choice or 301 is kind of a touchy-feely sort of decision. But we're playing the third leg. I want to make sure I describe this succinctly. I won the throw, so we got to start third leg, and I threw a ton. Guy goes up there and he throws 4 19s.
Okay.
So my partner goes up there and throws like, I don't know, 60 maybe, I want to say. Next guy goes up and throws like 4 19s. So I have no choice. I'm pointing. Right? And it went that way the entire game where my partner struggled to get his first dart in, which is the big difference in a cricket game. When your first dart goes in,
then you have
all
options.
the possibilities open. Yeah, you have a lot of options. When your first dart doesn't go in, you're sort of now you're all in for whatever close point. Almost always until you get a big lead. Right. So we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. By the time I closed their 18s, we both had 1,000 points, and we actually had people watching. There were people that came, like kind of darters that were hanging out by the bar. They came out and started watching, watching the game, and they all cheered when I closed the 18s. Right,
because it was 1,000 points.
Yeah, it took a long time, and then there were a couple of more 100 points as we went through the rest of the numbers, and then eventually we won. And it was rough. I mean, I was, my first start wasn't going in much either.
Right.
I'd try to close and I'd miss, and I'd look at the difference in the score and I'd be like, I got a point again, So we ended up winning. They never took a shot at the 20. Oh, they did. They took one shot at the 20 when they probably shouldn't have.
Pretty
now
much
that I
after
think of
you
it.
closed the 18s and the points were relatively close, but now you had the advantage.
It was weird. Like I would come up. Every round, it seemed, I would come up down like 17 points or 16 points or 19 points or something. So my first start was always at the 20 to get the lead back.
Yeah.
Right. So it was kind of a weird. And then what I posted before the show was touching an elephant. You know the thing about the blind men touching the elephant?
No.
You ever heard?
No.
Okay. I don't know how it goes exactly, but there's something about like all these blind men, like 5-7 blind men. They touch an elephant, and one guy thinks it's something, and because one guy's touching the leg, one guy's touching the trunk, one guy's touching the ear, and none of them realize they're touching the same thing, right? And it's kind of like this conversation I had with the chalker of this match,
okay,
right? Because I felt really bad for him because he was standing up there chalking for 45 minutes
and getting nowhere.
He's doing the math, and he did a very good job. He didn't whine, he didn't complain, he didn't turn around and say, would somebody close something? Nothing like that. As soon as the game was over, I'm like, we need to buy that fella a beverage, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so, okay, so everything, about 20 minutes later, he comes up to me, and he's like, well, I don't understand what you were doing. You're up 155 points, and you're pointing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you were up 155 points, and instead of closing, you went for the 20s. I'm like, no, I didn't. And so I talked to my partner, and he's like, no, that's not true at all.
Okay, all right.
What happened was we went up. He went up to the line when they had 18s, and we had a 35-point lead. So he threw his first start at the 20, and it was a single.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're up 55 points.
Right.
So instead of trying to close up 55 points, he went to throw at the 20, and he went single, triple.
Mm-hmm.
So then he ended his turn up 155
Yeah.
points. Well, that's a big difference than
And then
going to the line with 3 darts and a 155-point lead. It's like,
yeah.
Of course I'd close.
And then you went to 18s when it was your turn, right?
Depending on what they
Supposedly,
did.
yeah.
I mean, if they threw like a 126 or a 90, which is I think what happened right after that is they threw a 90, and then I came up and I'm like, I don't know what to do here.
Now you're only up 65.
I'll take a whack at closing. Okay, if I'm going to take one, if I tell myself I have one dart that I'm going to use to close it, it's going to be my first dart or my last dart because it's not going to be the middle dart, right? I don't remember what I did, but
I would guess
that was kind of how the match
you
went.
would go with the last one,
Which is what?
knowing the closed dart.
It's easier sometimes,
Right.
but the way I do it is I decide which dart's most important.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more important that I point or more important that I close? If it's more important that I close, then I'll do it on the last dart because, the way I've been playing lately in doubles is, my first start's sometimes not there. My third dart usually is, right? So, that's kind of how I'm looking at it these days. But it got me to thinking that, people don't see the same dart match.
Okay,
Especially
that's your blind men with the
that
elephant
was the blind
thing.
men with
Yeah,
the elephant
okay.
thing because I played the match, he chalked it, and he didn't see the same match.
Right.
It's like, okay, I got my partner here, he agrees with me, so it's like, well, I don't see it that way, but okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you know more about darts than I do, and I'm like, yeah, well.
Well, but I mean that type
You're
of
entitled to your opinion.
That type of conversation goes along with even 0-1 and outs, and people see them differently, even though for the most part there's a certain way to do things. Yeah, there's always a different way, but you know, if you really do the math and the percentages, most of the time it's really like 99 to 1% about how you do it for the most part. But some people that have just they do it more from a blind aspect. The blind aspect is, well, this is how I feel.
Well, that's what amateurs do.
You know,
there are some pros that'll do that. There are some pros that'll be like, yeah, I kind of feel like this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're really feeling it, you know, usually you hit it. But you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be honest that you're really feeling it, and it's not like, ooh, I want to hit this glory dart. I want to end on a double bull, so I could say I ended on a double bull.
Right.
You don't get extra
with two
credit.
other darts in your hand.
Oh, okay, for whoever commented on the thing. Yeah, we said double bull again. You know, you don't get extra credit. You don't get style points in darts. It's not diving,
Right.
or gymnastics, right? Hey,
Nobody holding up numbers.
you know, are you on zero, and was it a double, right?
Are they wiping the board?
I mean, on it. And I will say one more thing. Where are we on time?
We're ready for a break.
All right, here's one tip for you amateurs. You know, when you amateurs are playing, and this does not apply to soft tip players because they are exempt from this. Here's what I noticed with these guys that we were playing last night is they would diddle while the guy was wiping the board.
Mm-hmm. I see people do
You
that
see
all
amateurs
the time.
do that all the time.
All the time.
Can you not, like, keep your powder dry long enough to wait?
Yeah.
Is it going to interrupt your rhythm so much that you got to run to the line while somebody's going like this?
You wait long
with a
enough.
white towel.
You wait long enough to start the match in between matches because people are smoking and everything, and all of a sudden you
can't wait for the chalker to
one
erase the
leg
board.
and you're up there diddling.
See, with the soft tip, you got to wait for the machine anyway. So
Right.
you know, that's never an issue. But I could not believe these guys doing it, and they did it over and over again. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
you must be maybe we should send you to the PDC.
Well, but
if
these
people
are the
waving a towel by the board doesn't bother you.
But
You're
they're
perfect.
the
for
same
this.
people that'll get bothered by somebody walking behind them while they're in a bar. That's just going to the bathroom or something, and they're not even walking in their line of sight by any means, let alone barely in their peripheral vision, but they can sense them somehow, and they're like, why is this guy? And it's the same person that'll be able to throw a dart while a guy's waving his hands at the wiping the board.
I don't know.
It is kind of odd.
It's just kind of funny what people get used to,
Yeah.
right? Like at Will's upstairs,
Right.
I would have guys in the singles league come play me up there. There'd be no music, right? And it'd just be the sound of darts on the board and footsteps walking back. Guys would get creeped out. I had one guy be like, "There, no way, man! You got to have some music playing or something. Or I'm not doing this." And I'm like, "What?" You know, it's kind of funny. All right, we'll be back for the fourth quarter in a minute. You're listening to Dart Talk, Mystery Mark, Steve Ponciano. We'll be right back.
You are now and forevermore warned that you consume this show at your own risk, and that Dart Talk cannot be brought to justice in any court or by any government, including and not restricted to the grand spaghetti monster of the Triple 20.
Hey, back for the fourth quarter of Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone. TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo
Try
distributor.
that again. Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks. Windy City Fabricators, Redwood Darts, Aaron, Melissa, Jeff, Sam, Jill, my mother, my piano teacher, everybody who helps and listens to the show. We really appreciate it. So where were we? What were we talking about now? We went through
finished
the
our cricket conversation and
no. Well, here's why people don't
blind
like me.
men grabbing an elephant.
Here's why people don't like me. You know, I was playing.
We don't have enough time for this.
Well,
you got to start the show.
Look,
you can't end the show on this. We only got 10 minutes.
You know,
left.
I call it like I see it, and I don't get personal with a lot of people, and I just sort of like I try to be matter of fact about some of this stuff that you should be matter of fact about. So I'm talking to this one guy who's talking about raising the level of his game and stuff like that, and I remember when he first started playing, and I said, yeah, well, it's kind of a matter of, how much time do you want to put into it and what do you want to achieve?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not going to be world champion. I don't think you got time to play 12 hours a day for the next 15 years. So you forget about that. But what do you want to accomplish, and then work backwards from there. But what I noticed is we played a team where there were two guys that I remember kind of popped up maybe 3 years ago that I was like, those guys got potential. And I watched them play last night, and they have developed these totally unorthodox things. And I'm like, where did that come from? Right? So, I'm talking to this one guy, and I'm like, well, yeah, you're doing things differently than you did when I first saw you. And he's like, well, yeah, but I've been playing for 3 years now. And I'm like, well, you're doing some things I've never seen any pro do. And
but how is that? How is that a reason? How is it? Well, I've been playing for 3 years now, so I'm doing things different.
Well, that's kind of what I tried to tell him. I'm like, well, look, you got kids playing softball. Do you just let them swing a bat any way they feel like it? Is that how it works? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, right. So that's part one of why people don't like me. Nobody wants to go out and have fun and then be told they're doing something wrong. I mean, you got a guy on your team like that, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
He thinks he knows
exactly,
and then he plays and it's obvious he doesn't know, and he insists that he does, and it's like that's his personality. I mean, to be honest with you, the personality you need to succeed in darts is not the same personality that will help you succeed in other things. Right? Darts is a very solitary pursuit. It requires more stubbornness and more stick-to-itiveness than many other things, especially because there's not so much at the end of the road for it.
Right.
Right, it's one thing to be like, hey, if I do this well, I can make $15 million. Darts is not there.
No. There'd be more people involved if that was the case.
But so the second thing is, the captain of our team, you know him. He's a talented player, good player, Eddie. You know Eddie, right?
Yeah.
Never seen a guy play so bad this season.
Still.
Well, no. What happened?
He
changed the lineup, so I didn't play the first doubles with him. And he played the third singles. He played format singles, and he played well. And I went to him after. I'm like, that's the best I've seen you play this season. That's the Eddie I remember, man. Good job. Nice going. Whatever. And then I volunteered to chalk the last match because I got a ride from the guy who was playing. So I'm there anyway. I'll chalk. And I'm kind of tired. And it's 43, 47, 45. So I'm getting aggravated.
The last match, by the way, is doubles 501.
Yeah, doubles 501. And they're throwing all these crooked numbers, odd numbers. And I'm like, I'm just getting irritated now because I'm working too hard to do the math. I'm not used to deducting 27 and 29 and 43. I'm like, throw something with a zero.
Right.
Give me a break, right? So they played, I don't know, 30 dart 501 legs or something like that. I mean, it wasn't anything at all to write home about. And I can't remember if they lost or won. I think they lost in the end, but it could have went either way. I mean, people missing doubles and stuff. But at the end, I kind of said something to the guy. I'm like, look, you made me chalk this, so let me tell you what I think. And I proceeded to say, you are not playing anywhere near like you should be playing. I'm like, you're a good player. I've seen you play well. I've seen you play well for years. You need to start playing like Eddie and not some other guy. And I guess I said it in sort of a firm tone of
An
voice.
awful tone.
Well, it wasn't like I'm screaming at him, but I kind of got like a little bit of a coach gene in me somewhere, right? And it's the Bobby Knight coach gene. It's not like the velvet
Mike
glove
Krzyzewski
kind of.
or
Well, I don't know how he
Lovie
coaches.
Smith.
Hey, look, I heard Ray Meyer yelling at players, and he was like 70.
Yeah,
I mean, that used to be. That's how coaches were. When I was coming up, when I was young,
of course.
coaches yelled at you. Coaches grabbed your face, smack, and they'd slap you in the helmet.
Lou Holtz.
And they'd shove
those
you.
guys.
Yeah, Bo Schembechler.
Yeah.
Or Woody Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I grew up on. Bobby Knight, Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler, Ditka,
Yeah.
yelling at Harbaugh. I mean,
Oh, he grabbed people all the time.
Mike Singletary. I mean, the list is endless of the people from my generation and how we behave. I mean, it's not like it is now, right? People are whining about participation medals and stuff like that. I mean, I just laugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? What's the point of this?
So how did Eddie obviously didn't take this very well? This stern approach.
No,
you
he
had
agreed
to?
with me because he's been underperforming, and it was kind of like it's one of those things where I did the equivalent of calling him out in the press because I did it like kind of like 3 feet from the hockey when the other team was listening and everything, and it's just sort of like, dude, get it together, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hit the board a little bit before you come out or something. I mean, but you watch the guy and he looks great. It's just that things don't go in, but it's mental with him. It's all mental because I'm analyzing his stroke every week, and I'm like, looks good.
Just nothing.
I'm like, don't think, just fire it in there, man. Thinking's only going to hurt the team, right? I forget what that line's from. Bull Durham, maybe? I don't know. So that's all we can end on is stop thinking and just throw them in there.
Yeah.
Because they go in that way.
Sure.
Yeah. Have a short memory. Right, I threw a dart at a triple that almost hit a bull.
It's difficult to do, but you have to do it.
You got to learn to do it. That's
it's like I don't. We always talk about moving and getting off the line, and it's like you have to have such a short memory that if once you're on the line, if you're throwing at a trip 20 and you miss, people get upset, step off the line, and then have to reset and do everything. And it's like you actually have to keep an even shorter memory. Instead of backing off and trying to forget it, you have to you're already set.
Well, we're
throw the next dart. We got a couple minutes.
We got a couple of minutes. Well, here's the thing about that, and okay, we can end on this. This is an attitude issue. I understand it's frustrating when you're on the wire all night long, especially on the doubles. That can really get to you and get you discouraged and stuff. But I don't know when it was. It was a while ago. I was playing with Carolyn Mars in a some sort of team event in Chicago. And I was on 36 and I threw one dead center top wire. Right? I'm like, oh man, I get off the line, I go back on the line, throw it again, just exact same dart, ends up just to the left of it. So now I've got two right on the top wire. Now I'm like stalking the line, I'm walking around, I throw something, I end up throwing like a fat 18, and I think we lost. And afterwards, she's like, you had plenty of room. And I'm like, at the time, I was like, but no, the flights were there. She's like, no, you had plenty of room. Right? This is like 8 years ago, right? So I didn't have a lot of experience then. I ended up telling somebody the exact same thing a week ago.
Did you really?
Yeah, because your perception changes and you start to realize the advantage of being on the wire. Being on the wire is a good thing.
Exactly.
You watch good players who pop like a trip 20 and it falls out, they don't bat an eye. Boom, boom, same place.
Yeah.
Right? Being on the wire is a good thing.
Right.
If it's your third dart, yeah, okay, I get it. It didn't go in and you're unhappy. Now move on. It's going to happen again.
Exactly.
It's going to happen again. So don't just get used to it and try to the more positive. And this is the thing you cut me off last week that I wanted to say, and it's all the mental aspect of it is every negative thought that you have in your head when you're at the line, it's more likely you're going to miss.
Yes. And they compound each other.
I tell this to people, and it's in little ways. Like, let's say you're telling somebody what to do. Like they're like, hey, how do I take out 69? right? Invariably, what you'll get from somebody is, well, you throw a trip 17, that leaves double six, but if you single it, you're on 46, and then you want to go on the wire and blah, 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 blah. Too much. What I tell somebody is like, hit the trip 17.
Yeah.
That's the only thought you need to have is hit the trip 17.
Right.
If you don't know it's 12 after that, I'll tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Don't worry about that. Just one dart at a time.
Right.
There was a guy I'd been playing like 4 months. I was so gung-ho. I was just like, all I wanted to do was play darts. So there was a guy, we were doing these brass shoots to qualify for the Pro-Am, and I was already in. But my buddy wasn't. So I went out to some bar in the suburbs so he could play, and there was only 16 people, so it didn't take long. And he's in the semifinal, and he does not know his finishes, and I had managed to figure some out. So he's on 105, 125, 127. I don't know. He's on some 3-dart out that needs a triple. So I go, he just turns to me, and I'm like, trip 20, and he hits it. And then I'm like, trip 15, and he hits a single. And I'm like, double bull, and he's like, one hole, double bull, wins the leg. The guy he's playing is like, he doesn't know who to hate more.
Yeah.
The guy who hit it or the guy who told him what to hit.
Right.
That's not really the story. The story is, here's a guy who's been playing for 7 months. Only thought in his head, trip 20.
Right.
Obviously, the guy had ability and everything, but, later, he couldn't hit anything. 4 or 5 months later, he had almost quit playing, right? But that is what I took away from that, is you have to think positively when you play, and you can't think in some convoluted manner. The way people play cricket, and they go here, and they go here, and they go here, there's too much thinking. Just hit this one.
I think, and I agree with that, and I think especially in 5-0, well, even cricket too, but it's when you go up to the line and you go, well, if I hit this, then I have to throw this, then I have to throw that. If your math isn't necessarily good enough, but so you have 120, right? And you're like, I'm going to go up and hit a trip 20. Instead of thinking, well, if I hit the single, I'm staying on the triple and thinking too much, just go up there and go, okay, trip 20, and then hopefully you'll be able to figure out that you have 60 left, and just move on. But
that's a pretty routine one. I mean, I don't know that you need much thinking on that one.
Using that as an example,
okay.
But the thought process of what do I do on my second dart if my first dart misses is, you're just putting way too many things in your head, and it just all it can do is cloud your judgment.
Yeah, 01, it's like repetition takes care of a lot of the extra thinking.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
okay, obviously, if you're on 120 and you threw a triple 20, you know what you're doing, right? You're not going to go double 15. I mean, come on, right? I mean, some of the more exotic outs, I mean, just figure it out before you go to the line. And then once you've got it figured out, forget it, and just think about the first
dart that you're throwing at.
Like, you're on 170. It doesn't matter what the other two, you need the first triple. Okay, then you need the second triple. And your third dart, if you got 80, is going to go with the bull anyway and leave 40.
Yeah.
Right? Throw a 130, so who cares? So I don't know. It's what I told this one guy. Because he doesn't know his numbers well, and they were leaving themselves on 168 and stuff. And I told him, I'm like, look, if you don't learn your numbers, you're giving the other guy extra darts to beat you. I mean, you're making your life harder. You don't like losing? It's the mental mistakes. Remember in Little League, they would tell you?
It's also something that we talked about a little while ago when you said something. It's like, when you go up to the line, do you not know what you have when you're at 280? And I said, no. I said, I don't care. And you came to realize you thought everybody did. But
I was kind of surprised by that. A lot of people
really
don't.
Nobody
apparently.
don't. And I think one of the reasons is because instead of clouding your mind, it's easy for you. You're quick with the math, and you've played it, and you got it down. But I think it's easy. It's better for a lot of people not to care. They know they're throwing at 20s, at 280, all the way down, and that's good for them, and that's good for me. That's the way I want to do it. I don't want to start thinking to leave myself 221, you know what I mean, or something to that effect, because all I'm going to do is not hit the triple 20. I'm thinking about too much stuff, and I think that's it. I need to be more simplistic and not overanalyze it.
Yeah, well, and that's going to do you well in the long run, I think, to do it that way. I mean, for me, I kind of like,
It's more natural for you. For me, it makes me think too much. And if I'm counting down and going, okay, 271, all right, trip 20, all right, I got 211. If I think that way, I'm better off just going trip 20, and then
I'm trying to save myself from giving the other guy an extra 3 darts to beat me.
I know.
And if I can do it with my brain instead of with my darts, I will.
Yeah.
It's like in Little League, what did they tell you? It's like it's okay to make physical mistakes. Mm-hmm. Don't make mental ones. Right? Don't throw to the wrong base. Hit the cutoff man. Right? You don't groove 0-2 pitches. Right? If it's a physical mistake, okay. Well, if it's a physical mistake, it's okay. You don't throw one down the middle trying to blow it by the guy.
Yeah. Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, darts is the same thing. You don't make mental mistakes. Like the guy needs. We got a big lead. We're trying to close the bullseyes and the 15s. My partner goes up and he goes fat 15, and then he throws one by the 10 for a 2 count, and the other team throws like 6 15s, and I'm just like, man, I can't believe you did that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, it's just a little high. I'm like, no, I was looking over by the double. Like, the game's over.
Yeah.
All you got to do is throw a 3 count. What are they going to hit? 8 bulls?
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it. It's simple things
what's
like
the
that.
Point
common
of
sense.
What's the need of the triple 15?
It's common sense. Just close the number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's your mission. Your mission isn't to hit a triple. Your mission is to close the number.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You want to go for the triple? Okay. Now you hit a single. Single. End of story.
Right.
It's a done deal.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Sorry about all the cricket, you guys in England, for listening. We'll be back at 8 o'clock, hopefully, next week. Sorry we were late this week. Again, darttalk.us for the archive. Also, you can get the archive on Dart Talk US. That's our YouTube channel. Get us on Stitcher. Get on TuneIn, on iTunes. I think it's still 3-2 San Francisco, as far as I know.
Bottom
of the 7th. Okay, we're going to watch the end of the game, and we will Dart Talk to you next week. Thanks for listening. Everybody take care.